Greetings. My name is Dr. Bob Cruz. This presentation is a review of my book, Servant Leadership, A Remedy for Racism in America. The title was also the thesis for this book project. The project is a qualitative, critical, social study that offers opportunity for closing the gap between servant leadership and racism. I will present the purpose of the book, my inspiration for writing the book, and an overview of chapters 1 through 8. The conclusion will include a Q&A session. My purpose for this book is to offer Greenleaf servant leadership as a tool one can apply in personal and professional relationships. My heart is for the book to be a lightning rod to spark fire in the hearts of people to use in their circles of influence and help close the racial gap that exists between love and hate and servant leadership and racism. My hope is for people to acknowledge their racism, become free of it, and decide to contribute to positively building people and improving the communities where we serve, which just happen to be servant leadership characteristics. Yes, I agree, this is a substantial goal. However, servant leadership and racism reside at opposite ends of a substantial spectrum of humanity. To close the gap, it will take trust, courage, transparency, patience, love, perseverance, joy, and kindness. It will require that we not keep an account of wrongdoing and to forgive our brother and sister as many times as necessary for peace and love to prevail, reign in our hearts and lives. We can and we must work together to make this a reality because we are Christian leaders to change the world. Inspiration for this book starts with the story of John Woolman, who's credited with efforts of ending slavery in the Quaker faith nearly 100 years before the Civil War. This was a 30-year effort before he died at the age of 52 in York, England. Through characteristics of listening, persuasion, empathy, humility, healing, awareness, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to the growth of people and building community, John Woolman was able to succeed. The story of Leo is another inspiration, a mystical character in the fictional book The Journey to the East. Leo described his spirit of service while serving as a servant leader and a noble servant leader. Greenleaf recognized that Leo served only in many ways, which was a result of the inner peace he had and the natural desire to serve others in the group first. Other inspirations, unfortunately, were the murder of John Floyd and other African American citizens, Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. Chapter 1 introduces you to the people in my life who I believe were servant leaders. I have modeled Greenleaf's tool of the best test to assist me with that determination. The best test answers these questions. Do those served grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, and more likely themselves to become servants? And what is the effect of the least privileged in society? Will they benefit, or at least not be further deprived? In this chapter, I will also continue with scenes of how I experienced racism in different stages of my life. I had to travel through many years of these experiences to feel comfortable in saying today I grow in a continuous improvement process of meeting Greenleaf's best test. In Chapter 2 presents a concise explanation for the research approach. Dr. Winston and Cresswell serve as the research design authorities applied to the research for this manuscript. Chapter 3 expands on the servant leadership story. The discussion focuses on Greenleaf's discovery of points of servant leadership concerning his idea of servant first. The significance of the articles Greenleaf wrote are addressed in terms of how institutions are impacted. Servant leadership is accomplished one person at a time, and the significance of Greenleaf's articles will be discussed in this chapter. In Chapter 4, I introduced Spears' servant leadership characteristics that I mentioned earlier. The characteristics consist of listening, empathy, and healing, awareness, persuasion, and conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to the growth of people, and building community. Also, Patterson's theoretical model is presented. The theoretical model of servant leadership introduces the 7 virtuous constructs. These constructs are agapao love, humility, altruism, vision, trust, empowerment, and service. In Chapter 5, a paradigm for the crisis of racism is considered. The discussion surrounding the existence of the paradigm is supported by Rost's pre- and post-industrial thinking and Kuhn's revolution to solve puzzles. My claim that servant leadership time has come is put to scrutiny under Wheatley's premise for new science. While servant leadership is not new and has over 4 decades of history, I concur with Wheatley that servant leadership's prominence has come to a time of reckoning, and I must add concerning it being a remedy for racism in America. Chapter 6 attempts to share contemporary views of whether or not racism exists today. The accounts are taken from renowned scholars, practitioners, perspectives that address the ethical issues of right and wrong, and I share some statistical evidence that is offered and analyzed to strengthen and support the argument for my thesis. In Chapter 7 lays out current day examples that represent and support how servant leadership can impact today's cultures and addresses how it impacts racism. The cultures of influence examined are family, religion, business, economy and finances, government, education, media, and arts and entertainment. In Chapter 8, it offers my beliefs and views about temporal and eternal perspectives. In addition, the chapter provides servant leadership practical applications. Examples reflect how servant leadership has brought solutions in the nation of South Africa. Recommendations and action steps support my claim that servant leadership is a remedy for racism in America. In conclusion, I presented the purposes of this book. I explained the inspiration for writing the book. Finally, I gave you a brief overview of chapters 1 through 8. In closing, I'd like to offer these words of wisdom. Greenleaf stated, "Not much happens without a dream, and for something to happen, for something great to happen, there must be a dream." He also quoted, "If a group is confronted by the right questions long enough, they will see through to the essence and find the right way." I believe Greenleaf's best test presents that opportunity to occur. And my final quote is from Toni Morrison. Toni said, "If there's a book that you want to read but it hasn't been written, then you must write it." And that was another inspiring quote that caused me to write this book. So in chapter 1 of my book, I write, "So help me, God, I am just being transparent because I cannot be quiet anymore." This quote focuses on my hope for a revolutionary change in America. At the end of my book, you will find my quote above has, "and my brothers and sisters." This is my phrasal addition representing my hope that by the end of my book, all people will join me in being a voice in the wilderness to employ servant leadership as a remedy for racism in America. I can't do this alone, just like John Woolman had servants and followers who joined him in the effort to eradicate slavery from the Quaker faith. I hope to have others join me to attenuate racism one person at a time in America. I would like to begin that effort here at Regent University with Christian leaders who have a natural feeling to change the world. These are my references for this presentation. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. This presentation again is a review of my book, Servant Leadership, A Remedy for Racism in America. Thank you very much.